Hey internet, a bit of a more serious video today. There's a charity in the UK called Time to Change, and they are a mental health charity. And what they're asking people to do is pledge something that they can do personally in order to try and end the stigma behind mental health problems. In any given year, 1 in 4 people will suffer from a mental health illness, which is 15 million people in the UK alone every year, and that doesn't include of people who went through it alone. So here's my pledge. I'm going to try and talk about my own experiences with mental health in order to try and break down the stigma there is about people with mental health problems and also the mental health problems themselves. There are quite a few things I'm not ready to talk about yet, and YouTube may never be the place for them. But what I think I can talk about is my experiences with OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. A lot of people still think that this is people who just like things to be clean, who wash their hands loads, and a lot of people, when they're talking about things like liking to be tidy or organised, oh, I'm a little bit OCD. But this is not OCD. Yes, some people will clean their hands a lot for fear of infection, and yes, a lot of people with OCD do like things to be in their correct place, but there is a lot more to it than that, and I hope I can share that with you today. Recently someone asked me what my OCD was like, and I think I described it as more obsessions and less compulsions. I do get intrusive thoughts and quite a few things go through my head, but I don't have any compulsion to tap anything or count in relation to those thoughts. My brain just tells me there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And the response was that mine can't be as bad then, because the compulsions are the bit that take up all the time and rule your life. I by no means disagree necessarily with this person, and I'm not targeting them anyway. I know they've had their own experiences, and they're right, my OCD isn't the worst case ever, obviously. But this conversation did get me thinking. My OCD certainly isn't severe, and I've always thought it isn't my biggest problem. And it's not that for other people it can't be a huge problem, and it's not that the problems I do have are necessarily worse, it's just that for me and my balance, OCD wasn't the biggest thing. And personally I do think that probably is still the case, but I do think it's probably a bigger problem than I often let on. Back to the more obsessions, less compulsions. I do say a lot of things when I'm nervous or in a panic, and I try to justify things. I'm not sure exactly why I feel the need to justify things, but I just do. But I did read a really good comparison the other day. Well, not really good, but I thought it gave some kind of an idea. So if you can imagine you're in a train and it's during rush hour, it's really, really busy, things are moving really, really slowly, and you really need to get home because you really need to pee. As the train starts slowing down and then comes to a halt outside a station, you start feeling more and more anxious, so that you find yourself unable to focus on anything other than that need, anything other than that fear of the worst case scenario. As the train remains stationary, thoughts start flashing through your mind. Thoughts saying that you may well just go ahead and do the thing you're fearing and wait yourself. This is a comparison with an obsession. Now the compulsion, you're frantically trying to fight off these thoughts, both in a reflective, mental and physical response, and you're trying to reassure yourself that you are still in control. You start tensing every muscle, even crossing your legs, just so you can feel that you're resisting the thing you fear. You do make it home, dignity intact, but you've been seriously stressed. And despite your anxiety for the entire length of the journey home, none of your fellow passengers were aware of what was going on. No one saw any outward signs of your anxiety to this invisible fear. So really, just because I don't have any outward compulsions doesn't mean I'm not constantly fighting an internal battle. And these thoughts can sometimes paralyse me with fear, and it is really quite difficult to talk about them, especially as I don't know exactly how to put into words what I'm feeling. I do get a lot of thoughts about the inevitable, that we're all going to die, And this is a pretty normal fear. It's not unusual at all, and a lot of people are scared of dying. But these thoughts are intrusive, and I fight really hard with them, so they can really impact my life. I get a lot of thoughts about nothingness, about the fact that one day we're just not going to exist, we'll just cease to be here. And if you've ever tried to think about that, it's really not easy, and it's scary, especially when you can't control the thoughts, you can't control when they're happening. And then there are thoughts that we could live forever in some kind of heaven. And because it's an unknown, it's something which is really hard to imagine, and yet my brain forces ideas into my head, and it's scary, and I don't want to think about it, because it stops me thinking about anything else, and it stops me doing other things. So I fight so hard to push these out of my head. It terrifies me, and I just don't want to think about it. Then I have a lot of thoughts of things happening to people I love. My family, including my pets, my friends. Any situation I'm in, I can see detailed film clips of things that could happen. The worst case scenarios. And it's all scenarios. They might be unlikely or impossible. Some of them are quite possible. I don't get compelled to do anything outwardly because my brain says this could happen and there's nothing you could do about it. That is the thoughts I get. No other action that you can do outwardly is going to counteract these things. These things could happen or even will happen, and I'm absolutely powerless to do anything about it. And most people are powerless to do anything about these things that could happen, but we don't have to think constantly about them every minute of every day. And these thoughts are intrusive, they are vivid, and they are painful and scary. I've thoughts about things happening to me, whatever situation I'm in, walking down the street, sitting in the sofa watching telly, and I can see these things happening to me or any of the people I love, sitting in a cinema, in a restaurant, anywhere, all the time. Then I have thoughts that I might hurt someone, myself included. I know I could never do things I can see myself doing in my head. It's just not me. But it doesn't make the thought or the idea that I could do them any less scary. These thoughts are really vivid, and they might get worse if I'm angry with someone, and they make me really not like myself very much. These thoughts are all with me 24/7. There's no off switch. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I am, or who I'm with. They're not nice, and I don't even appreciate they're really not easy to talk about. Aside from the thoughts, I do have certain rituals or patterns that I follow. They're not necessarily connected to the thoughts in any way, but I still feel I have to do them, and if I don't, something bad could happen. And I just feel really nervous and scared and have that butterflies in the stomach feeling if I don't do them. I have things with certain numbers. I really like the number 5 and any multiples of the number 5. If you've got, when there's volume on the TV or radio and you can see like a number setting rather than just a random arbitrary scale, I really rather it's on 5 or 10. It can really upset me if they are on even numbers, and it feels a lot better. I feel less stressed and anxious if they are on multiple 5. I can't really explain why, it just feels like something terrible is going to happen. That gut feeling that you get when you're being told off or something bad is happening, or you just feel like something could happen. Pit of the stomach, butterfly feeling. When I put on my shoes, I have to put on my left shoe first. It just feels right, and if I don't do it, I just don't feel right for the rest of the day. Brushing my teeth, I have to do them a certain way, and again it revolves around multiples of 5, and if I don't do it, it just feels like something's going to happen. The world could end for all the worry that I go through. if I don't do this ritual, I'll feel bad until I brush my teeth again. Finally, lines and cracks. I'd really rather not step on them. At times when I'm not particularly stressed about other things, if I can avoid them I will. If they're a little bit harder to avoid, I won't. But when I get more and more stressed about other things, I'll avoid the ones that are even hard to avoid. And it can also upset me when other people are walking on them. I'm not going to tell them that. I'll say please don't step on the lines, because I don't want it to affect anyone more than me. I hope that gives you a bit more insight into OCD and what it's like to live with it. If you want to learn more, I'll put a link in the description for the OCD UK website. Mental health disorders still have so much stigma attached to them. When people have symptoms but there's nothing physically wrong, and someone suggests maybe it's psychological, people get upset. No, it's not all in my head. It's real. They can get quite angry, and with all the stigma it's not exactly surprising. In fact, it could be quite understandable. But just because it's something psychologically broken, or a mental health illness, doesn't make the symptoms any less real. Thank you for watching. I've put a link to the pledge form in the description, so if you'd like to make your own pledges, feel free. Bye.